It's the week 8 edition of the Phil Steele Show. We are live on the Varsity Channel on YouTube, and we are brought to you by our friends at Home Field Apparel. If you're watching, go ahead, jump in that chat, give us some picks. We want to see them. We'll roll through this next hour or so, hit 25, 30 games to get everybody set for the upcoming weekend in college football. We're halfway through the regular season already, Phil. Starting to get a good beat on some of these teams. You've been 2-1 or better the last 3 weeks on your top 3 plays of the week. I wanted to bring this up. I saw your tweet early on Saturday morning going back to the Washington-Rutgers Friday night game last week. I had the over. 60.5, 61.5, somewhere in there. Loved the pick. They should have broken 100 in that game, Phil. Just a crazy night.
Yeah, and the two teams combined for well over 1,000 yards. I mean, not just 1,000, it was like 1,080 yards in the game, moving up and down the field all night. And you look at the score at the end of the game, and you got 57 points on the board. Just a brutal beat. It had to be one of the highest yardage games of the year in college football, and it didn't even go over a lower total of 60.5. Normally with an offense like that, you'd expect the number to be in the 70s, but brutal beat for you there, Trip.
It was a brutal beat. I will say Damon Williams, that was one of the best football games I've seen anybody play all season long. Moving on, David Kahn. You've joined us again, back from New Orleans, back from your Green Wave got the win. They even got a cover for you down there.
They sure did. ECU left that back door wide open, baby, and Jake Retzlaff said, "Give it to me," and we got the cover. Love to see it. That was the excitement on Thursday. I had a bad Friday night too, boys, because if you remember, I picked North Texas straight up, and that did not happen.
It looked good.
Yeah.
21-14, just before the half, forcing a punt, getting the ball, I think 36 seconds left in the half, fumble the punt, then USF scores a touchdown, then 2 touchdowns early. They scored 4 touchdowns in 3 minutes and 47 seconds. And all of a sudden, what looked like a North Texas win turned into a South Florida blowout.
Yeah, not great. Not great for the people. But what is great for the people, guys, is our sponsor, Home Field Apparel. We want to give a shout out to them. Each and every week we do the Phil Steele Show because they are incredible. They make quality, thoughtful apparel for more than 190 colleges and universities across the country. Make sure you go to homefieldapparel.com. Use the code PHIL15. That's PHIL15 for 15% off your order at homefieldapparel.com. They've got amazing stuff. They have all these reputable schools on there, and they're continuing to grow. They are in Ann Arbor this weekend for the big matchup of the rematch of the 2023 National Championship between Washington and Michigan. We'll talk about that game later on, but that's where Home Field's going to be this weekend. So if you're in Ann Arbor, go check out our friends, Josh Johns and company at Home Field Apparel.
That's good, man. We do love some home field here on the Phil Steele Show. David, I think last week you started out with ECU, Tulane. Why don't you start with ECU again, see what the Pirates are going to do this week?
Yeah, well, Trip, ECU loves to play on Thursday nights. This is their third straight Thursday night game for ECU. So they are hosting Tulsa this week. ECU a heavy favorite by 16.5. It's a 7:30 kickoff from Dowdy-Ficklen Stadium tonight in Greenville, North Carolina. Phil, Tulsa's really been struggling with turning the ball over. -3 turnover margin for the Golden Hurricane. However, I don't know if I'm not necessarily as interested in the side on this one. I like the under because the total has gone under in 5 of the last 6 games for both teams. It's 53.5. What do you think?
That's interesting. I think that's probably a good call on your part. You know, for Tulsa, probably the highlight of their season came in that win over Oklahoma State, which got Coach Gundy fired. They look really good in that game. But since then, haven't looked quite as good. Lost to Tulane by 17 and then lost to Memphis, of course, by 38 in the last game. They did get Kirk Francis back at quarterback. Remember, they had gone to Baylor Hayes for a while due to Francis's injury, but Francis did return to the lineup. East Carolina has been a team that has played extremely well at times, and then there's been games where they haven't. And you go back to the last home game they had, they beat a Army 28-6. So I think if you could beat Army 28-6, you should be able to beat Tulsa in this one. But let's go with David's call there with the under.
We like the under to start out on Thursday night. We got a great game to start things off on Friday night. Big game down in South Florida. Miami up to number 2 in the polls. They're hosting a very dangerous Louisville team coming off a bye and a loss the week before that. So, Brom's going to have his guys fired up. This game also features the top 2 defenses in the ACC, but Bain and Mesidor, they play for Miami. And that's probably been the best looking defensive line in the country to this point in the season. And that's got to be of concern for the Cardinals here. Miller Moss had a couple of pick sixes in the last 2 games. Turnovers have been a problem really all year for Louisville. In that Virginia game, Virginia only had 237 total yards, but they still won because Louisville put the ball on the ground. They gave up defensive scores. Another really tough test on the road this week, Phil. Do you think Miami can cover the 2 touchdown spread? I'm seeing 13.5 right now.
Yeah, I like the Hurricanes here. Last year, I liked Miami to win on the road and cover, and they did 52-45. They got out to some big leads, let Louisville back in, then ended up winning it. This year, if you look at the 5 games Miami's played, I've been impressed with them in all 5 games. You start with Notre Dame in the opening game, winning that one by 3. Then knocking off ranked teams like USF, Florida, Florida State. Go to Louisville. I've sort of been unimpressed with them all 5 games. James Madison is a game I thought James Madison outplayed him a good portion of that game. They ended up winning by 14, but that was a misleading final. James Madison had 19-12 first down edge. Did what they needed to against Bowling Green. Pitt had led them by 17, led them by 10. And then let them back in the game, and they ended up winning that. And then, as you mentioned, the Virginia game is turnovers. So really have not seen Louisville play to Louisville's potential yet, which was where they were last year. Have seen Miami play to that level each week. It's a different Miami team, and where they lost a couple of games late in the year last year with Cristobal, I think he's got this team believing they can potentially run the table. So I'll take Miami minus the points. They've been the more impressive team to me.
Phil, I love every single time you get to reference that Louisville win over James Madison when you're talking with Stephen Hartzell and Wayne Cook on the Tuesday night, Wednesday show on College Sports Now, because that just really sticks in the craw of Stephen Hartzell when you mentioned that James Madison played better and didn't get the win against Louisville. So keep bringing it up. It's great to ruffle our boys' feathers here and there. Sticking in the Friday night window, we got a big one in the Big Ten, 8:00 kick in Minnesota. Number 25, Nebraska is rolling into town. The Cornhuskers looking for back-to-back road wins for the first time since 2006, and they've got the defense to do it. They're the best in the FBS in passing yards allowed. They are laying 7.5 on the road at Minnesota. What do you think about this one, Phil?
Yeah, great pass defense for Nebraska. And, you look at the rest of the schedule, David, for Nebraska. They play Minnesota, Northwestern, USC at home, UCLA on the road, Penn State, which earlier in the year you would have looked at that and said, I don't know. And then Iowa at home. They've got the potential to make the playoff this year if they keep winning. But they've been winning close games, for crying out loud. The Michigan State game was a game that they only won round the spread. Maryland last week, they had their moments, but then they actually trailed in the second half and won by 3. When you look at Minnesota, last week, they beat Purdue, but they were outgained 456-262. So it's a Minnesota team that usually runs the ball extremely well. They haven't been able to run it the last 3 games under 100 yards rushing. If you're passing the ball against that Nebraska defense, it's trouble. But can Nebraska get margin? I have a tough time with this one, so I'm throwing it to you guys. Nebraska, Minnesota. One of you 2 guys take charge here.
I've got something on this one, all right? And Phil, it goes back to the start of the season in our Week 0 podcast. You said, watch out for Nebraska because you're expecting 4 teams from the Big Ten in the college football playoff. You said Nebraska could be one of those 4 teams. Now, a note on this series, Minnesota's won the last 5. However, you mentioned the Nebraska defense at the start of your breakdown of this game, the best in FBS in passing yards allowed. They're also the only defense in the country that has not allowed a single pass play over 20 yards or a passing touchdown. I think that's too much for Drake Lindsey. Give me the Huskers minus the 7.5.
Nice call, David. Nice call.
Really strong play there. I was actually going to lean the other way on that game. I was going to take with the 7 in the hook. I think I would lean Minnesota at home, but I was going to say Nebraska. They really stink against the spread, but guess what? So does Minnesota.
Yeah, they're worse.
All right. Well, David, you have a little more conviction there than I do. So
I'll go with
we'll
David's
take
play
your
on
pick
that
on
one,
that one.
Trip.
What's that, Phil?
I said we'll go with David's play on that one, Trip.
We'll go with David on that one. Fair enough. All right. Late kick in Berkeley on Friday night. Everyone's piling on North Carolina right now. Ever since the Clemson game, Belichick needs to go, this and that. Watch them go on the road and win at Cal, because it would be the most college football thing ever for that to happen. And Justin Wilcox, great as a dog. We like him as a dog. They're not so great as a favorite. They are laying 10.5. I think I saw a 9.5 out there also. So somewhere at 9 or 10 is what they're laying at home in the favorite spot. One spot you really do have to love for Cal here, though, is the quarterback spot. JKS, and we really don't know who he's going to be facing, if it's going to be Johnson or Gio Lopez for the Tar Heels. Both teams coming off a bye here, Phil. Who do you like in this one?
Yeah, good breakdown there, Trip. I like that a lot. I can't put my money on North Carolina until I actually see it. You want to believe in it? You know, Belichick's had 2 buys in the last 3 weeks to get this team straightened out and playing well. But I watched him against Clemson, down 35-3 at the half. I watched him against UCF, TCU, just non-competitive. And you talked about Sagapotelli at quarterback for Cal. He's had some impressive games. Now, coming off a game where he struggled against Duke. I mean, they jumped out to a lead against Duke. Then his interceptions really turned it into a snowball thing, and Duke took charge in the second half. But they're not playing Duke's defense here. So the fact it's a long trip across the country, I will continue to go against North Carolina. But once that buy side comes on, I think we might see a different North Carolina team. The question is, will that buy sign come on this year?
All right, let's go to Saturday, Phil. Big one to start us off in the noon window. Number 10 LSU at number 17 Vanderbilt, and that is favored Vanderbilt over LSU. First time Vandy has been favored against LSU since 1948. Vanderbilt favored by 2.5, and I think the real key in this one is twofold. One, can LSU's defense control Vanderbilt's offense? They're averaging more than 43 a game. But also, can LSU's offense keep up? Because they haven't scored more than 20 against Power 4 teams this year. How's this one play out, Phil?
Yeah, and this one, it's tough to grasp your head around the fact Vanderbilt's favored over LSU, isn't it? But I tell you, this is one of those where I've been arguing with my computer all week. My computer likes Vanderbilt. All the numbers say Vanderbilt. You take a look at the fact that LSU, when they played Ole Miss, got outgained 480 to 254. When they play Florida, they got out first down 23-10. Vanderbilt's been the more impressive team. Now, I will say this. While Vanderbilt beat South Carolina 31-7, South Carolina did lose quarterback Lenore Sellers in the first quarter. I think it was 7-7 at the time. So you can't really compare that score to LSU's beating South Carolina by 10 at home. But the computer really likes Vanderbilt. All my power ratings say Vanderbilt. That's why Vanderbilt's favored. I just can't get my head wrapped around it. I think LSU comes out of here with the win. They played the tougher schedule. They've already played a Clemson, a Florida, South Carolina. Meanwhile, the toughest 2 opponents, Alabama, South Carolina, but a little lighter schedule. I'm going to lean with LSU as an underdog here. A rare situation, as you mentioned, first time since 1948.
Phil against his computer.
Yeah.
That's the real showdown.
A lot of arguments in the office, Trip. When,
I hear you. All right, let's jump to the ACC. My Georgia Tech over 7.5 win ticket. Looking pretty good right now, but the Jackets are a slight dog this week on the road at Duke. My guy, Roddy Jones, on Tuesday on College Sports Now, well, he actually said this a couple weeks back that he thought Duke, looking ahead at Georgia Tech's schedule, he thought Duke could be a favorite here, and they are. They're 1.5 point favorite in this one, and Wallace Wade, great quarterback matchup. Haynes King, Darian Mensa thriving after getting away from Tulane, that disaster of a football program. I'm just kidding, Con. I just wanted to make sure you're still awake over there. But he is leading the ACC in passing yards per game, 306. And Tech has not been great to us the last couple of weeks, Phil. We had them covering on the road at Wake. They barely got out of there alive. Then we went against them last week with the Hokies and missed that one by a hook. Again, I just feel like, I don't know. I want to roll with Georgia Tech this week. I think they find a way to get it done on the road here. and Brent Key and the Jackets stay undefeated.
And first of all, Trip, I'm a little mad at Philip Montgomery, the head coach of Virginia Tech in that one. We had Virginia Tech plus 14.5. You had to feel pretty good when it was 21-14 the third quarter. That means you still can give up a touchdown and cover. Georgia Tech actually got ahead of the spread 35-14, but we scored with 4:58 to go and have covered because we're going to lose by 14. And then for some stupid reason, Philip Montgomery goes for 2 when he could have cut it to 14 points. And the 2-point conversion, while I'm watching, I'm like, they're not going to get this 2. Sure enough, they don't get the 2-point conversion. And instead of covering with that half point, we end up not covering. Little aggravating. But, Trip, you're over on Georgia Tech got a break in the fact that Duke is favored. What have we learned about Georgia Tech? They are unbeatable as an underdog. I mean, you look at this team versus ranked ACC teams. They've been like double-digit dogs against ranked ACC teams, and they not only cover, they win the games outright. So he's tremendous as an underdog, not so good as a favorite. They're an underdog. That's a big plus. I like Duke's defensive front seven. Very impressive this year. I do like what I've seen out of Mensa, but put Georgia Tech in an underdog role. They're going to cover. I like Georgia Tech to win this one outright.
Chad agrees as well. They say Georgia Tech is awesome as an underdog. So they're listening to the Phil Steele show, Phil. They're hearing what you're saying, and they agree with you. Georgia Tech to win outright in Durham. All right, let's go to the place we already mentioned, Ann Arbor. Home field going to be there for Washington at Michigan. Wolverines are laying just under a touchdown at 6.5. We already told you it's a rematch of the national championship game from 2 years ago. Phil, Michigan got handled last weekend in LA by USC, but at home, they're really solid. They've won 29 of their last 31, but neither of these teams are really good spread teams. So maybe a thought on the total here, 50.5?
I have no thought on the total. I like Michigan in this one.
Okay.
What's your opinion on the 50.5, David? Just hear you out.
I'm going to lean under.
Okay.
I don't love it. It wouldn't be a top play on the board, but I'd lean under 50.5.
Okay. Here's what I look at in this game. Washington has yet to win and cover a Big Ten road game since they've been here. In fact, the only road cover they've had under Fish was earlier this year when they traveled to Washington State, same state, and beat Washington State on the road. And that was a game they actually needed 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter to get ahead of the spread and cover the game. Now, they have an explosive offense. Damon Williams at QB, Jonah Coleman at running back, Boston at receiver. This is an explosive team, but Michigan's much better at home. And when you look at Michigan, that game last year, Michigan was a completely rebuilt team. Washington was a completely rebuilt team, but Washington's dangerous at home, weak on the road, and Michigan really couldn't handle it last year. They've got Bryce Underwood. I think Underwood will have a good game here. I am a little concerned Justice Haynes got banged up last week. I don't know if he's going to play here, but I think Michigan is the better team at home. Washington still struggles on the Big Ten road. And now, last year, Washington was playing with revenge. This year, Michigan's playing with revenge. I look for the Wolverines to win this one and cover, by the way. Okay.
Phil likes Wolverines. By the way, I do want to mention the Can't Miss Kickoff Tour from Home Field Apparel is in Ann Arbor this weekend. On Friday, they're going to be at Pizza House with free pizza and drinks, a home field pop-up shop, and raffles for men's basketball tickets. That's 4 to 9 p.m. Eastern. So you got a lot going on in Ann Arbor. If you need something to do on Friday night, go hang out with Home Field at Pizza House from 4 to 9 p.m. It's on 618 Church Street. And if not, homefieldapparel.com is the place to be, guys.
Very correct there. Phil, Big 12 race starting to heat up. We've still got 3 undefeated teams in league play. I think besides the 4 at the bottom of the standings, you've got Oklahoma State, West Virginia, UCF, Colorado. Above that line, it feels like just about anyone could beat anyone in this league. And that's why we've got another toss-up game this week. Arizona on the road at Houston. The Cougars, a slight home favorite, 1.5. Houston's only loss was against Texas Tech. And we think they're a very good team, one of the few undefeateds left in college football. Outside of that, the schedule might be a little on the soft side. But Arizona, I can't get these guys right. I went against your advice a couple weeks back. I took them against Iowa State. That's on me. I took them again last week against BYU. It ends up in overtime, but they just didn't get the cover. I don't know if I can roll the dice on them again, Phil. Who do you like in this one?
Yeah, I'm going to lean with Houston. I had Arizona last week, and you're up 24-14. midway through the fourth quarter, I felt really good about the game. I believe we were a dog in that game.
Yeah.
BYU scored a touchdown in the final minute to get the thing to overtime, and we ended up not winning in overtime. So disappointing loss last week. I do like the way Fafita's moving the offense this year. He's got a 15-4 ratio, but Houston has a really good defense. Connor Wigman's been a big plus at the QB position. Zion Chris has filled in for him when injured. And then Dean Connors, of course, at running back. So I think these two teams are pretty close. Houston's at home. Let's give them the home field edge. And the spread's very manageable in that respect. It's under 3. I'm going to take Houston in this one, but should be a great game.
All right, sticking in the noon window, we have a rematch of the 2024 American Conference Championship. This time at Yeoman Stadium, though. It's not at West Point. Get out of Mechie. We're going to Yeoman Stadium in New Orleans. Army at Tulane. Tulane favored by 9.5. This game really worries me, Phil, as a Tulane fan, because Army dominates time of possession, 36 minutes per game on average, and Tulane, they lead the FBS in penalty yards per game, 78.7, plus the defense keeps getting banged up, but the waiver favored by just under 10. Are they going to cover?
I think they will. And okay. The key here is John Summerall. If you go back to his days at Troy, took on a couple option offenses, spends time in the spring working on it, every week he has a couple of sessions working on the option, even when they're not playing option teams. And then you go back to last year, they played Navy during the season, beat them 35-0. The Army game last year, I'm going to give that one simply to Bryson Daly. Bryson Daly was a dynamic, outstanding quarterback, like having a fullback at the quarterback position. Really took Army by the bootstraps. They don't have that this year. Last year they were averaging 5.5 yards per carry. This year, because they had a big week last week against Charlotte, they're up to like 4.8 yards per carry, but that's mostly the Charlotte game where they had almost 9 yards per carry. They haven't been the same dynamic offense. They're playing with legitimate revenge. They played in the title game last year, and as mentioned, Bryson Daly really took charge of that game and beat them. I think the way that Summerall prepares for the option, the fact they're the better team, they're at home, they're playing with revenge. I clearly like Tulane in this one. And let's keep in mind, Army a couple weeks ago lost at East Carolina by 22.
Love it.
All right, let's go back to the SEC. 12:45 kick in Columbia, South Carolina taking on Oklahoma. The Sooners, fresh off their first loss of the season in Red River last week. Mateer came back way ahead of schedule, but he threw 3 picks. Texas won 23-6. Can they bounce back on the road this week? They better get this one, because listen to the upcoming schedule for Oklahoma. Ole Miss, at Tennessee, at Alabama, back home for Mizzou, and they finish with LSU. Ooh. I mean, with that schedule, Texas probably sounds like one of the more gettable games out of that whole bunch. The Gamecocks, meanwhile, 3-3. They just lost at LSU. And the offense, we've talked about this all season, they just can't seem to get it going for Shane Beamer, who's probably still screaming at those refs down in Death Valley right now. One of my favorite coaches to watch get fired up on the sidelines is Shane Beamer. What do you like in this one, Phil?
Yeah, I like Oklahoma. I think they're the better team. You look at South Carolina, they lost a lot off that defensive front seven. The offense is centered around Lenoir Sellers, but beatable. As you mentioned, they're 3-3 this year so far. Oklahoma, I think maybe Mateer did come back a week early with the fact he didn't get much work with the first team in practice, and it looked that way. Now, at the half last week, if you're watching the game, they had 170 to 114-yard edge. They lead 6-3. They look good. Then the interceptions cropped up in the second half and really turned it over. I think if we see a better John Mateer, and I believe we will this week, then Oklahoma's got the better defense and has the better offense. And I think they're capable of going on the road and getting the win. So I definitely like the Sooners in this one to go on the road and come out of here with a win by more than a touchdown.
All right, let's step into the midday window. Pretty loaded 3:30 slate we got here. Number 4 Texas A&M at Arkansas is where we start. A&M favored by 7.5 on the road in Fayetteville. The Aggies have dominated this series. They've won 12 of the last 13. 2 really dynamic quarterbacks with Taylon Green and Marcel Reed. And Phil, I think you know where I'm going with this already, but Arkansas is a pure over team. And why would you not with these 2 gunslingers, right? 60.5, blow that puppy out of the water, right? Come on.
Good call. Wow. Good call, David. And I was going to throw it to you guys on this one because I don't have a pick on the side. I think when you look at Texas A&M, and frankly, I am still angry about that Auburn game because they absolutely dominated Auburn, 21-9 first downs, 414 to 171 yards, and yet they couldn't cover a 6.5-point spread, only winning by 6 because they gave up some stupid interception return to the 2-yard line for a touchdown. They had settled for 5 field goals and missed 2 of them. All right, I digress. It's just an aggravating game. Elko's only covered 5 or 6 of his games at Texas A&M, so you wonder if they're going to get the margin. Arkansas's got backdoor potential, but you mentioned Arkansas's offense. Great. Their defense is not. A&M does have a great defense. So I can make a case for A&M. I can make a case for Arkansas. I'm going to throw it to you guys, but it sounds like David likes the over.
That's exactly right. Tripp, what do you think here, buddy? You got a side?
I'll tell you this, David. I'm not just trying to go opposite of you on every game here, but we did talk about this. Our guy Roddy Jones, he covered the Arkansas game last week in College Station. He's with them again this week. He'll be in Fayetteville calling this game. And Roddy did say this. I asked him if A&M was elite. I mean, they're undefeated. They're ranked in the top 5. I don't know, 4 or 5, whatever they're ranked. I asked if they're as good as Ohio State, Miami. He didn't have them quite on that level, but he did say this about the defense. He thought the defense, even losing guys like Nick Scorton, Shamar Stewart, Shamar Turner, those are all first, second round draft picks right there. He thinks their defense is actually better this year without those guys. That's a real credit to Mike Elko. I was actually going to lean the under on this one. I know that's kind of an unpopular play with 2 super dynamic quarterbacks.
All right, hold on. I need a wager between you 2 on this game.
Ooh, okay.
Think of it if you need time. Think about it. But I need a wager between you 2.
Lunch bet, Tripp?
A lunch bet is good unless we can come up with something a little more clever, a little more.
See if you can come up with something clever by the end of the show.
Higher stakes.
Okay,
yeah,
I'll be
we'll
thinking.
Figure something out that we can do on the show. All right.
Oh wait, I got it, guys. This is so easy. I have the over. Tripp has the under. Whatever hits, the other person has to buy somebody something from Home Field Apparel, and we got to wear it on the show.
Okay. Well, that might work. The only gear I've got from Home Field right now is Florida State. I might need a new team to start.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. The other. So the other person who wins, like the winner, gets to pick what they buy for the loser.
Yeah.
Well, David, you would have to wear Florida State, and Tripp, you'd have to wear Tulane.
Okay. Okay. That's a good bet.
I'm here for that. I like it.
We'll
all right.
Make that happen.
Very good. Okay. All right.
All right.
Fantastic.
We're going to
take us to Athens. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. We're going to keep it in the SEC here. Another big game. Lane Kiffin probably just relieved that it's not another night game for Georgia because of all the politicking he's done. Rebels heading to Athens to face the Bulldogs. Night game advantage gone because this is a 3:30 kick. So we should obviously love Ole Miss in this spot because the Dogs, as a heavy favorite, or when they're favored at home, we just don't like them as much as when they're favored on the road. Off a surprisingly close game here against Washington State, Ole Miss. I mean, for some of us who had Ole Miss to cover like 32, whatever it was last week, that didn't work out too well. So maybe this line's a tad higher than if they had rolled in that one. But for Georgia, they're only 1-3 against the spread this season. But they do have some revenge in play after they lost at Oxford last season, 28-10. And Ole Miss hasn't won in Athens since 1996. By the way, Kirby Smart, he said they need the best crowd they've ever had in Sanford Stadium on Saturday. Give it a rip.
Tripp, the one good thing you had going for you in that wager you had with Mississippi last week was you didn't have to watch the second half. You knew you had lost.
Very much. I'll tell you what, hey, shout out to Eckhouse for Washington State. He's pretty decent quarterback.
There you go.
They found a QB there.
Well, let's take a look at this game. Now, first of all, when you look at Ole Miss, they struggle as an away dog. They're 1-6 against the spread as an away dog. So that sort of scribbles out a little bit that home favorite struggle that Kirby Smart has. But, Kirby Smart, when he's taking on top 10 teams at home, 5-1 against the spread, and ranked teams at home as a home favorite, once again, very good record. So Put them against a non-ranked team, the struggles. But ranked teams at home, you get the A game for Georgia. You talked about he's calling out the crowd. They're playing with legitimate revenge. Ole Miss out-muscled them last year. You got to believe George has been talking about that to both the offensive and defensive lines. You let them out-muscle us last year. And Ole Miss did have a hell of a defensive line last year. I don't think their defensive line's as good as last season's group. So I think we're going to see Georgia turn the tables on them with revenge at home. I like the Bulldogs in this one.
All right, sticking in the 3:30 window, back to the ACC. We've got a rematch of the 2024 ACC championship in Charlotte. It was SMU at Clemson. Clemson, of course, winning on that 56-yard field goal as time expired. Right now, a little bit of questions for Clemson at the quarterback spot. Cade Klubnik is dealing with an ankle issue. Dabo has not given an updated injury report since that initial report came out. However, I'm just looking at the numbers and the trends for Clemson, Phil. I know you've loved the Tigers a lot of the year despite their results. They have not been a good home favorite. They're 2-4 against the spread, and they've lost 3 of their last 4 games against Power 4 teams overall at home. They're favored by 9.5. What's the play here?
I like Clemson in this one, minus the points. A couple of reasons why. Let's take a look at Clemson's last 2 games. North Carolina, 35-3 at the half. They pretty much put it away in the second half, only scored 3 points. Boston College, 34-10 at the half. Once again, put it away in the second half, only scored a touchdown. So if Clemson had actually played the full 60 minutes the last 2 weeks, they would have had even more impressive scores than what they put on the scoreboard. Meanwhile, look at Smoo last week against Stanford. It was right before the half. I think Smoo had a 2nd and 17. They were on their second and long, and they were on their own 17-yard line. You're basically trying to run out the clock. Handoff, 87-yard touchdown run. They get a cheap touchdown. Then at the end of the game, Stanford's down by 14. They have a 1st and goal at the 5. So they're about to make it a 7-point game. 94-yard interception return for a touchdown. That's a misleading final last week that they beat Stanford by the score that they did. Also, on the season, believe it or not, Smoo, despite their 4-2 record, minus 18 yards on the season. Clemson, which has taken on a much tougher schedule this year. They've taken on LSU, Georgia Tech, teams like that. They are plus 98 yards per game. So I think we have the better team at home. I do believe Klubnik will play. It looked like Klubnik could even possibly have come back in the game last week, but they just wanted to make sure he didn't play. So I do expect him to play here. And I like Clemson minus the 9.5.
All right, we got Clemson on a heater here. Let's head out to the Mountain West. We've got Dan Mullen's 6-0 UNLV team making the road trip to Boise State, and the unbeaten, a pretty big underdog here, Phil. Boise laying 12.5 at home. Broncos have dominated this series, 8-0 in the last. That actually might be an all-time, but they're typically very tough to beat at home. We know that. When's this ride going to come to an end for UNLV? You've seen all the crazy games they've been involved with this year. They had another shootout last week with Air Force. We've talked about on this show the crazy game against Miami, Ohio. Dan Mullen at the end with Florida, it seems to have carried over to Vegas. It just seems to be defense optional for his teams. Maybe another good over spot here. You have to figure Boise can put up some points. I know it's 63.5, but that might be my play on this game.
Yeah, anytime UNLV takes the field, you got to think over in their games. And, even the opening game of the season when they played Idaho State, Idaho State was moving the ball all over them all game long. They did beat Sam Houston State. They got past UCLA, and that's when UCLA was struggling. You talked about the Miami game. You go back to the Wyoming game. Against Wyoming, they were actually out first down 21-15. That was a game played in snow. They blocked 2 punts for touchdowns to get them to 31 points there. And then last week, Air Force, they trailed, they score a late touchdown. Air Force comes down, misses a game-tying field goal on them. So it's Dan Mullen must have a rabbit's foot right now, winning all these games. Boise, different. They're at Notre Dame loss. I thought they played pretty good in that game against the Irish on the road. USF in the opener, as mentioned, I don't think they got blown out 34-7. Watching the game, I thought they were the better team. Mid-third quarter, the fake punt really changed things around. Other than that, they've taken care of business against Air Force, New Mexico. I think I like Boise State minus the points at home to end UNLV's unbeaten season here.
Trip, I got some bad news for you. The chat is saying take the over in A&M Arkansas. So get ready to wear some Tulane gear. All right, it's already over. Sorry for your loss. Let's go to the 4 p.m. slate. Number 7 Texas Tech at Arizona State. Phil, this game is interesting for a whole lot of reasons. Mainly, who's going to be the starting quarterbacks? Because the line started at 12.5 at the beginning of the week. However, it's dropped down to 7.5 for the Red Raiders because Sam Leavitt is now probable to go for Arizona State. Baron Morton is questionable for Texas Tech with an ankle injury. Now, you look at the Red Raiders, they still have not trailed in a game all season, so kind of hard to doubt Texas Tech no matter what, even with Will Hammond at the controls instead of Baron Morton, I think. And Cameron Dickey, he had himself a remarkable game last weekend against Kansas, 260 on the turf. You still riding with the Red Raiders, even if it's Hammond at QB?
You know, I really like this Texas Tech team. I think they're the best team in the Big 12. Their defensive front really gets pressure on the quarterback. You mentioned Dickey at running back, great running back. Our great week last week. And Will Hammond, I mean, the best quarter Texas Tech has played all season was the fourth quarter against Utah. That thing's 10-10. Will Hammond comes in at quarterback, and all of a sudden, Texas Tech turns it into a 34-10 win. So I have no problems at all with Will Hammond as my quarterback. He's a dangerous runner and thrower. But this is an Arizona State team that's a defending Big 12 champ. You know, last week they actually did have 23 first downs against Utah, had a time of possession edge despite playing a backup quarterback on the road against a really good team. I think defending champs die hard. So you're going to get the A+ game effort for Arizona State. The woe is us. I do believe with the fact the line moved from 12 to 7, you can pretty much be assured Sam Leavitt's going to play here. So I'm going to lean with Arizona State plus the points. Tough to go against Texas Tech. Wouldn't be one of my top plays, but I just think the line value's on Arizona State right now.
Should be a really good game there. Back to the SEC. Phil, do you think there's any chance we might see an upset in the Swamp this week? We got Mississippi State taking on the Florida Gators. 9.5-point spread, but this has got my hog senses tingling here. I smell something. Something's up. If the Bulldogs can give Shapen a little time, I think they have a chance, but that's been the struggle for Mississippi State. They've already given up 16 sacks, and we do know the Gators have a very good defense. And I think this is the game that may have turned it around for Florida last year when they kind of went on that run to end the season. Do you think Billy Napier can circle the wagons one more time?
Yeah, I think he can. And I like that matchup, as you mentioned. Mississippi State gives up sacks. Florida's got a tremendous defensive front seven, 6 sacks the last time they had a home game. It's always a lot easier to get sacks at home because you have the home crowd working for you. The offense can go on a certain snap count. So it's a big advantage of Florida's pass rush having this game in the Swamp and that last game in the Swamp. Remember, they were 1-3. That crowd was fanatical. So I think they will have a good crowd here. And let's go back and take a look at the A&M game for a minute. You know, they were down in that game 21-7, but it was still a close, or 21-14, I should say. It was still a close game late in the game. Then they went for it on 4th down, I think on their own 40-something yard line, got stopped. A&M got a couple of late scores that turned it into 34-17. But I thought they took on a very good Texas A&M team and played them close last week. They, of course, beat Texas at home the last time here. And when Mississippi State played A&M, they did play good in the first half, but they ended up getting rolled only at 219 yards. I'm going to go with the Gators at home here. I think it will be the start of a Billy Napier second half surge again.
A lot of Texas talk in that breakdown, and that's perfect, Phil, because we're transitioning to the night window where we've got Texas. Number 21, the Longhorns, back in the top 25 after that huge momentum-swinging win in Red River over Oklahoma. They're at Kentucky this week. Longhorns favored by 12.5, lower total, 43.5, but I want to focus on the spread because I dove into the lab and I dug out some ATS numbers for Texas specifically following Red River under Sark. They're 2-2 overall, and they're 0-4 against the spread in the game after Red River. Now you look at Kentucky. They're coming off a bye week. Under Mark Stoops, they're 4-13 against the spread in a game following a bye. So where do you go here, Phil?
I'm going to go with the better team. I'm going to go with Texas in this one. And it does concern me, that they're coming off the Red River rivalry and that Kentucky is off a bye. So it's a good situational edge for Kentucky. But Cutter Boley still finding his way at the quarterback position. I think Arch Manning's getting better and better by the week. we may see Arch Manning have a big second half here of the season. Texas does have a really good defense. Kentucky's defense is not up to old standards, and the big blue wall hasn't looked like the big blue wall in the offensive line. So I think Texas knows they're coming off that big win. They only have Mississippi State on deck, so I think I'm going to go with Texas, laying under 2 touchdowns. Get it before it gets to 14. I think that might be important. There is a chance Texas wins by 14, so get it while it's under 14 in this one.
Get it while it's under 14. That's right. Shop around. If you've got 2 books, go get 4, but get the best number you can get. Very, very important advice there. Back to the Big Ten, the Iowa under hit for me last week. Now, it probably didn't hit for everybody. They almost blew it up on their own. 37-zip, the final score against Wisconsin, but 36.5 was the number Saturday, and I gave that one out on Twitter. I've been lamenting a lot about the picks that I just barely missed. If you got it Thursday, if you got it Friday, you had a winner there. Now we get Penn State going on the road without James Franklin, and they'll be in Iowa City to take on the Hawkeyes. 7 p.m. kick in Kinnick Stadium. Terry Smith taking over at the interim for the Nittany Lions. Just a very confusing losing streak. I get the Oregon loss. Oregon's a good team, but UCLA, now they look like a buzzsaw all of a sudden, but then the Northwestern loss, I guess that was just too much. They've moved on from James Franklin. Drew Aller, their quarterback, he's also down. So we're going to see Ethan Grunkemeyer at quarterback. I don't know anything about this guy, but that's why we've got Phil Steele, because he can probably tell you what Ethan had for lunch yesterday. Phil, help us break this one down, because new head coach, new quarterback, still a very talented team for Penn State. This will be a tough test here, though.
Yeah, they do have faith in Grunkemeyer. He's a local kid, and he's got plenty of work with the offense. And I think we're going to see a good offense. But, I mean, they are playing Iowa's defense this week, which makes it pretty tough for a first real road start for a quarterback like that. In this game, I like the under. I mean, I could make a case for Penn State. If they play up to their talent level, they are the better team. I think when you look at Allen and Singleton, they'll probably change the offense up a little bit, maybe concentrate on the run a little more, come off that offensive line. And then defensively, they have been struggling under Jim Knowles as defensive coordinator, but I think they have too much talent on that side of the ball to play like that. But then again, how do you go against Coach Ferentz and Iowa? They're a team that almost beat Indiana at home. We know how good Indiana is. It's at night. It's in Kinnick. That's when magic happens there. So to me, I find it tough to call the game. I'm going to go with the Trip normal. I'm going to go with under in this game. What do you got the total at, Trip?
Old trusty Rusty, the 40.5, Iowa under.
An Iowa game in the 40s. Trip, come on.
Crazy. What are these books thinking?
Vegas messed up. Yeah, Vegas just messed up, guys. We got a death taxes and Iowa unders. Come on now. That's an easy one right there. All right, Maryland at UCLA is where we go next as we stick in the Big Ten. Phil, the Terps, they did it again. Another fourth quarter collapse against Washington and then Nebraska. Meanwhile, UCLA, who I'm repping a polo for today, has turned the corner. Incredible also to see that not a single player left the team during that emergency transfer portal window. Hat tip to Tim Skipper, Jerry Neuheisel, and that staff that opened after Deshaun Foster's departure. UCLA is favored by 3.5. Do you just play the hot hand here and go with the Bruins?
I tell you what, they sure were impressive last week, blowing out Michigan State. I mean, that wasn't even a game. They just totally dominated both sides of the football. And I think that shows what type of team they have. Nico Iamaleava is a top-notch QB. I'm not going to call him outstanding, but he's a top-notch QB. And he has done it with his legs and his arm. Now, didn't run as much last week against Michigan State. They did against Penn State. He's got that potential. That offense looks really good under Neuheisel. But Maryland, as you mentioned, could easily be 6-0 right now. They led Washington in the fourth quarter. They led Nebraska in the fourth quarter. And their quarterback looks really good. Malik Washington has got – I mean, we're going to be talking about Malik Washington for years. This guy's got a 10-2 ratio this year as a true freshman. I think it's going to be a tough game. I think it's one of those toss-up games. Since the spread's 3.5, I'm going to lean with Maryland plus the points in this one.
All right. It'll be the third Saturday in October. So we've got Tennessee and Bama in Bryant Denny under the lights. 7:30 kickoff. Pair of 5-1 teams here. Alabama, since losing to FSU back in week 1, they have really looked the part. And hey, Noel fans out there, I know there's more than just me. We will always have August 30th, 2025. Nobody can ever take that day away from us. But since that day, Ty Simpson and the Tide have been cruising. He's completing 70%, 16-1 ratio. And the Vols have a great quarterback too, and Aguilar. This should be a great quarterback matchup. Great game to watch here, Phil. I'm seeing the Tide favored by 7.5 at home.
Yeah, and I like Alabama here for a couple of reasons. First of all, yes, both teams have an outstanding quarterback, no doubt about that. And both teams' top running back is banged up. Jam Miller got banged up last week. Bishop got banged up for Tennessee. That's a little bit of concern on both sides of the football. However, I have yet to see Ty Simpson make a lot of mistakes. I have seen Joey Aguilar make mistakes last year at App and a couple of mistakes here at Tennessee, and they don't play as well on the road. I believe Heupel's 1-6 against the spread as an away dog. And then you take a look at who the quarterbacks are facing. Alabama has a top-notch pass defense. Tennessee does not. It's one of the weaker pass defenses in the SEC. So I think the matchups favor Alabama. The fact they're playing with revenge favors Alabama. The fact they're at home favors Alabama. And the more steady quarterback favors Alabama. I'm going to take the Tide minus 7.5 here.
All right, another big one in the 7:30 window, a big-time rivalry that may be ending for now in 2025, guys, because this series has not extended beyond this season. It's USC at Notre Dame, the 96th all-time meeting. USC coming to South Bend where they haven't won since 2011. You look at Notre Dame, we've brought up C.J. Carr plenty of times on this show. He continues to impress for the Irish, 1,600-plus yards, 13 touchdowns. We just have to look back to last week to see how USC did a really good job of controlling another talented freshman QB in Michigan's Bryce Underwood. Notre Dame's favored by 9.5, high total of 61.5. Where's the lean here, Phil?
It's a tough one for me because I was super impressed with USC last week. Not that they won the game, but the fact they dominated at the line of scrimmage, outrushing Michigan 224 to 120. They had the better offensive line. They had the better defensive line. And here's the amazing thing about that game. USC lost their number 1 running back. They lost their number 2 running back. They had listed their number 3 running back as out. He was in street clothes at the start of the game. They had to go to him and a walk-on in King Miller in the second half, and yet they still ran for 220 yards. That tells you something about the USC offensive line. Now, when Notre Dame played Miami, we were wondering where Jeremiah Love was the entire first half. They didn't really utilize the Love-Price combo. They have since then. Those two guys are really breaking it out at the running back position. That's when they're at their best. C.J. Carr's looked really good this year. He's another young quarterback that's taking care of the football. Defensively, I give an edge to Notre Dame. And I know the Irish got maligned a little bit for giving up some points early, but they're actually holding opponents to 125 yards per game below their season average. They're playing really good defense, and they're at home. The key factor for me in deciding this game, I was like, I'd put it at about 7, is the fact that USC, when traveling to the Eastern or Central time zone, I believe they're 1-14 against the spread. So I'm going to lean a little bit with Notre Dame in this one, but I think it's going to be a really good football game between two playoff caliber teams. It's basically a playoff caliber or a playoff elimination game, I think, because if Notre Dame loses, they're done. If USC loses, I think their chances are really short.
All right, let's jump back to the ACC. I had to squeeze this one into the show, Phil, because I watched Pitt last week and that former backup, Mason Heinchel, just torch the Seminole defense Saturday, and Doak Campbell about gave me an ulcer watching that game. Pitt could be undefeated. They led by 10 in the fourth quarter at West Virginia. They had a big lead on Louisville, and the 2 losses, they had leads in those. Here's a crazy prediction for you. I think Heinchel turns back into a human being this week and looks more like a normal quarterback and maybe throws a couple picks. Pitt still wins, but I don't think they're going to make him look as good as Florida State did last week. What do you like in this one, Phil?
Yeah, and last week I liked Florida State because I figured Heinchel, first road start, is going to struggle, and he did not. I mean, he did a great job reading the defense, running the football, the whole ball of wax. Maybe one of the reasons that he looked so good was the fact they got Desmond Reed back. Remember, Reed got injured against West Virginia, didn't play against Louisville. And getting Reed back, he's really the best player they have on offense. I think that's huge. Now, can Pitt handle traveling to the Dome? Well, I believe they've won the last 7 trips to the Dome against the spread, and they usually win them by a good-sized margin. With Syracuse, they have a new quarterback as well in Ricky Collins, but Ricky Collins has already tossed 5 interceptions in his couple of stints that he's had at quarterback. They only had 3 points against Duke, got some late points against SMU in that game. I believe they trailed 31-3 and scored the last 15 points of the game. So I think Pitt's the better team. As you mentioned, they could be 6-0 right now. Getting Desmond Reed back is huge for that offense. And they're not taking on as talented a defense as they did last week. Syracuse gives up a lot of yards, a lot of points on the defensive side of the ball. I'm going to go with Pitt minus the points. I'm going to go against your prediction there, Tripp.
I hear you. No, you're right. Though Desmond Reed, they did get him back, and that guy. If you haven't seen Desmond Reed, he is flat out electric with the ball in his hands. We're coming down the stretch here on the Week 8 edition of the Phil Steele Show. Another kind of under the radar game. This one in the SEC. We've got Mizzou and Auburn, mainly because Auburn's dropped 3 in a row, but to some very good teams. They are a home dog again this week. Tight line. Mizzou favored by 1.5, and Mizzou scored late to lose by only a field goal to Bama last week. That did matter to some people, but they still have some life left for this season. Just no more wiggle room. Auburn, they could have went up 17-0 in the game last week against Georgia. The call didn't go their way, and it just kind of unraveled from there. Hugh Freeze, only 1-11 against ranked teams as the Auburn head coach. What do you like in this one, Phil?
Yeah, and I think a couple other key plays in that Missouri game, which had the Alabama pushing instead of winning. Alabama missed a field goal. And of course, it started the first play of the second half. Simpson gets sacked, fumbled, and gives Missouri basically a cheap touchdown. Other than that, Alabama probably should have covered last week. Unfortunately, they got the push. But, Missouri's a really good team. I like what I see out of Bo Prabula. Hardy last week didn't even have 100 yards. That first drive of the game, Missouri took it right down the field, scored a touchdown. I'm like, wow, it's going to be a long day for Bama. After that, I believe Hardy was held to like 68 yards for the game. So he can be controlled. And the thing I want you to look at with Auburn, and this is going to be really interesting. If they somehow beat Missouri here in this one, they've got at Arkansas, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Mercer, all before Alabama. They could really turn their entire season around, have an entirely different outlook on it. But if they lose this game, look out, it could be trouble. They've got talent, with Jackson Arnold, that defense. I really have a tough time picking this one. So I'm going to leave it to you guys. One of you two guys come up with a strong play here, Missouri or Auburn.
I'm going to give this one to Tripp because I've come up with a couple plays for the other two that you've tossed our way. So we'll let the lock doctor deliver his surefire one for this game.
I've got to pick. I like Missouri. More to play for, more left for the season for Missouri, and I'm going to trust Coach Drink in this spot.
There you go. Tripp says lock it up.
Play of the year.
Play of the year, Missouri. I actually feel like on tomorrow's show on College Sports Now, Stephen Hartzell is going to say Auburn is his dog, his live dog of the week. That's a prediction. I don't know. I haven't talked to Stephen about this, but I think he's going to roll with the Auburn Tigers. So
how much of a dog are they, though?
1.5, but that's okay. It's still a dog.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're a little hazy on underdogs when they're picking on that show on Friday, Phil. So we got to give them a little leniency.
Give people some credit here, Con. Felder has picked a couple of
I am not hating
dogs
on Michael Felder. He predicted Northwestern over Penn State outright. That was incredible. The guy is seeing the crystal ball exceedingly well. Anyways, right. 2 more games for you, Phil, this week as we wrap up the Week 8 edition of the Phil Steele Show. We go to the Holy War in Provo. Number 23, Utah at number 15, BYU. 8 o'clock kickoff for a rivalry that dates back to the 1890s. 1896 is when this one got started between these interstate rivals. Very similar teams, right? They both love to run. They rank top 10 in overall defensive efficiency. Utah favored on the road by 3.5. I know you've been a big fan of Utah this year. Ever since the start, you said watch out for them in the Big 12, especially because of their quarterback, Devin Dampier. The Utes going to be able to win this tight one, especially after all the craziness that went down in last year's game?
Yeah, and you're talking about a Utah team that's playing with legitimate revenge. They feel last year's game was stolen from them with the referees' calls late in the game. But I really do like Utah. You look at their offensive line; they've got two first-round draft picks at the tackle spots. It's really one of the best offensive lines in college football. Defensive line, they can be dominant. Last week they had 5 sacks against Arizona State. Dampier looks tremendous at quarterback, dangerous runner and thrower. And with BYU, I still have yet to be super impressed with any game they played this year. I know they're 6-0. But even last week when I went against them with Arizona, I felt really, really good midway through the fourth quarter, up 24-14. We're going to win this game. And then somehow, some way, BYU ends up with it at the end. If there's one team that can handle traveling to Provo, I think it's Utah. I'm going to lean with Utah minus the 3.5. I think they're the better team here.
The numbers tend to agree with you, Phil, on that one. Utah's 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 when in games favored by 3.5.
There you go.
I like that pick. I also side with Utah, but I'm also known for going against the grain a little bit. When everybody else zigs, I zag. And I've got maybe the boldest prediction that I've ever had in 4 years here on the Phil Steele Show. And remember, when everybody was on Bama week 1, I told you Florida State's going to win by 30.
That's right.
When half of Virginia Tech's team quit on them, they went to NC State. I told you, 10-point dog, they're going to win outright. Ben Goldbrinson, the quarterback for Stanford. Your life is about to change, young man, because you're about to have the absolute game of your life this weekend. Stanford hosts Florida State, 10:30 kick Saturday night. I don't even need to watch because I already know that this guy Goldbrinson is somehow going to morph into a mix of Andrew Luck and John Elway and throw for about 700 yards. I can feel it in my bones. Stanford just wins this game straight up, outright. They should probably be the favorite here by 18. Wow. I'm telling you right now, Vegas is off by 40 points in this game. But hey, Florida State, I will say this. The offense has not been the problem for Florida State. It was very much on the defense. And by the way, Gus Malzahn, in his press conference this week, he mentioned that Castellanos was actually hurt on the first play of the game against Pitt. He stayed in for the whole game, but who knows? Could be a chance we might see some of the backup Sperry this week. But again, offense has not been the problem. I also think this game probably goes into the 90s. Phil, I think Vegas is way off here.
Wow.
What do you like?
Well, I'm going to go with under 90. I'm going to take Florida State plus how many were we getting? 20?
18.5.
Yeah, Florida State plus 18.5.
Yeah, but I mean, the trip line was plus 20, I believe, right?
Oh, yeah. I think it was plus 30, actually. Yeah.
And I'm actually going to go with Goldbrinson under 700 yards passing in this one.
Bold play.
Yeah. So, Goldbrinson's best game did come against San Jose State. He actually started out the year horrific against Hawaii. He had 103 yards passing. Then he went to 142. Then he went to 186. Then he went to 286. And then 444 yards against San Jose. Struggled a little bit against SMU in the last game, but I can see maybe getting close to that 700, huh? I'm going to lean with Florida State in this one. I think we're going to see a different Florida State team on the field. Stanford has never been a good home team. They don't get a great home crowd. I think Florida State can turn their season around, come out of here with a win. It's been a long time since they won an ACC game, though, so you got that streak going for you, Trip. But I'm going to politely decline taking Stanford in this one. I'm going to lean with Florida State, but I tell you what, if Stanford upsets them, we'll lead off the show with that next week, Trip.
Absolutely. I hope that's not what we're leading the show off with. I really hope that's not the case. I will tell you one more just terrible stat for the Noles. I saw this. I had to look it up and verify it. Their last, and this was before the Pitt game. So going into the Pitt game, their last 10 games in the ACC, they're 1-9 in the ACC. Florida State's first 110 games when they joined the ACC, they were 101-9. 101-9. In their last 10, they're 1-9. So got to get this thing turned around really quick. And I trust Mike Norvell. He's a good friend of mine. We talk every offseason about golf. Check that out on College Sports Now whenever we go to ACC Media Days. All right, Phil, that's it for the Week 8 slate, but it's time for your top 3. You're 2-1 or better for the 3rd straight week. What do you got this week for us?
I'm going to go with 3 games we talked about on the show, so I don't have to give much explanation. We'll go with Georgia Tech as an underdog against Duke, Clemson laying the points to SMU, and Michigan at home minus the points against Wisconsin. Last week we had that sneaky play come in there with Kent State. This week we're going with 3 marquee plays.
All right.
Yeah, no sneaky
no
play
MAC
this
game?
week. I've told people Akron 2 weeks ago they were getting 7.5. You threw them out. When Phil drops one of those plays in where we haven't talked about the game, those have a really high percentage there. So okay, this week we've got Georgia Tech, Clemson, and Michigan for the top 3. Phil, you want to fill everyone in on what's going on at philsteele.com?
Yeah, appreciate that. Take the Phil Steele Plus tour. It's up right now. You get 6 free selections. 6 quick hitters. The quick hitters are 10-4 the last 3 weeks. And you also get an NFL play. So a lot of free plays, complete reason behind the selections. The tour overall went 10-5 last week. Make sure you go to philsteele.com and take the tour. It's on YouTube. Click on it and subscribe and get notifications. But take the Phil Steele Plus tour and get yourself 12 free college football plays.
There you go. Make sure to do that. And David, we also need to tell everyone to make sure to go to Home Field, right?
Yeah, but you got to go to homefieldapparel.com and use the code PHIL15 for 15% off your order at Home Field. Those guys are amazing. They've sent us some awesome swag. I can't wait for Tripp to be wearing a Tulane t-shirt or a hoodie next week when that A&M Arkansas game scores 75 points. It's going to be fantastic. So, check out Home Field. They're going to be in Ann Arbor on Friday, 4 to 9 p.m. at Pizza House for a happy hour, some giveaways, men's basketball tickets, a raffle's going on. Those guys are awesome. And we appreciate Home Field Apparel for being sponsors here on the Phil Steele Show and for making Tripp look really good in the olive and blue next week.
Hey, what about your guys' picks?
Oh man. Well, we've already got the over pick in A&M and over under in A&M Arkansas. Tripp, do you have a second one?
I'm taking Stanford.
Okay. Well, that's a cop out. I'm gonna. You know what? I'll take.
Out. He's calling for him outright. He's taking him on the.
Some may say I'm trying to buy the win, but
you are trying to buy the win. What if I took a MAC game this week? What do we feel about that?
Why don't you do that?
All right, I will take a MAC game. I'm actually going to take. I just pulled up the spreads for the first time. I hadn't looked at any of them. I'm going to throw a dart here, and I'm going to take Ball State -1.5 at home against Akron.
Wow.
Yep, there we go. No reasoning whatsoever. I just looked at the spreads, and that one caught my eye.
Know who the starting quarterbacks are? What state is Akron in?
They're in Ohio.
There you go.
Yeah, that one I know. And Ball State is in Muncie, Indiana.
Very good.
Where the game is being played. Cardinals over Zips by 2. Count it.
Okay. Laying 1.5?
Yep, laying 1.5. Count it.
All right, lock it up. There you go. That's the Week 8 show. We appreciate everybody tuning in, everybody listening. We will be back again, 11 a.m. Eastern time next week on the Phil Steele Show.